and I'm going to tell you guys about my hypothyroid journey. There are a couple reasons why this is very important to me. One of them is obviously I have a journey and a story to tell. The other reason is because I've learned a lot along my path, and when I was initially diagnosed with hypothyroidism about 2 years ago, I watched a lot of people's YouTube videos, and that is where I got some of the best suggestions and the best advice. Much later, I found out that a lot of my friends were actually dealing with the same thing, but sometimes you don't always talk openly with your friends or your peer group about what's going on with you health-wise, and I totally understand that. So online communities are very important, and I wanted to become a voice for hypothyroidism in case that's you and you're scared and you don't know what to do. I'm here to tell you that you're gonna be fine. It is really good to be diagnosed with it if you have it, because then you can start on your healing journey and you're gonna live an amazing quality of life, and I'm a really good example of that. So let's start from the beginning. In high school, I would always come home from school exhausted, like so tired to the point where I always had to take naps. I went to the doctor and asked them about this. My parents noticed it, and it would just kind of be passed along the wayside. Like, you probably are anemic, or you're vitamin D deficient, or maybe you have mono. And that was kind of what I got used to. That was my quality of life. I could do everything that I wanted to do. I could still operate with high energy and accomplish everything. Always been a very high achiever. But I knew that I had to kind of watch my energy. So this led to a couple of bad habits. I would say a lot of caffeine being one of them. And just kind of not living the best quality of life. But I didn't know any better. So I guess it didn't make a whole lot of sense in terms of comparatively speaking. I just knew that at a certain point in the day, I was gonna crash and get exhausted. Eventually, I had a doctor that ordered a hormone panel after seeing something that looked a little bit off in my normal blood work, and then I was diagnosed with low thyroid or hypothyroidism, okay? At first, I was so scared because, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have this for the rest of my life. Does it lead to thyroid cancer? I had all of these questions, and I didn't really know where to turn because all they said was, you're just gonna be on these meds, you're gonna be on these meds forever, and that's kind of it. And once you get pregnant, you're gonna have to change your dosage. So that's kind of how I lived my life, and I didn't have that much more information, which is where I'm gonna come to my very, very first point. There are a lot of resources out there, you guys. There are a lot of doctors that study this. There are a lot of charlatans and people that you shouldn't trust that have information, and then there's going to be people, maybe even your general practitioner, that seem to know nothing at all about what it's like to have hypothyroidism. So my first piece of advice, and my biggest piece of advice, if you listen to nothing else in this video, please listen to this. Find a really good endocrinologist. So for the rest of the video, I'm gonna call that my endo. And so my endo, who is an amazing person, who honestly changed my life. So that is my biggest piece of advice. And I mean that before you change your iodine. I mean this before you start reading medical medium and do celery juice every day, both of which I've done, by the way, no judgment. Before you make any changes, before you take a weird vitamin or a different supplement, even nootropics, before you do anything, ask your endo. Also, if you're planning on getting pregnant, or you do get pregnant while you're on thyroid supplements, you need to discuss that with your doctor because your levels are going to change, and that's very important. So just know that up front, and this will come into play later on in my story. So my original general practitioner, before I had my endo, had me on a very, very low dosage of levothyroxine, I believe it's called, which is just basic hormone, like Synthroid. It's hormone replacement for your thyroid. I felt no change in my energy. At the time, I did not know this. It's not like normal medication where you take it and then you get better. This is something that you'll be on forever, so it's important that you have the correct dosage. I had no idea. This is nothing that my doctors discussed with me. As you can tell, didn't have a great normal doctor. So it took me a while, and it took an endocrinologist to tell me, oh, you're taking 25 micrograms, you need to like triple that to feel the difference. Your hormones are so messed up that you need this to feel better. So it really shook me to my core that this is not something that my general practitioner knew or seemed to pay attention to, especially when I'd been seeing them for years. They had my blood work for years. They had their eye on this for years. And after diagnosing me initially and putting me on the medication, they did not seem to think that it mattered or that they needed to check in or to ask me or to even check my blood work to see what level I should be on. This is really upsetting to me, especially because they messed other things up, like checking blood work later down the line in my next physical and not coming back with the information that I needed. All this stuff is bad. So really make sure that you have a good endocrinologist and also a good general practitioner. I eventually had to fire mine because of this. If you have hypothyroid or any thyroid condition, it is going to be very important that you know what's going on with your blood work and that you know what's going on with your hormones, okay? Because there might be times when you need to change your dosage. It's going to be it's going to make your life a lot easier, basically. So now that we've got that out of the way, I'm going to tell you what helped me. And hopefully the beginning part of the video was helpful for you too, so that you know to find the right doctors. So there is one book that really changed my life. I was listening to a podcast, I think, and I heard a woman talking about your hormones and endocrine disruptors, right? And her name is Alissa Vitti. She wrote this book called Woman Code, which is about basically biohacking kind of, but for women. So it's about understanding your hormones, understanding that the medical industry is not really tailored to women, and combating that with information. So if you don't have this book, get it on Amazon. I'll put a link down below so you can order one, but also listen to my podcast, Hot Pizza Ass Podcast. I have her on the podcast and she gives an incredible interview, and I ask her a lot of the questions related to hormones and toxins and endocrine disruptors. So one of the first things I did when I read this book that really blew my mind is that she talks about, first of all, why there's so many people with thyroid issues, which is fascinating, but I won't get into it in this video. She talks about endocrine disruptors, which are ingredients that you can find in your shampoo, your lotion, your skincare, anything that you put on your body or that you use that could possibly be messing with your endocrine system. So this is really important because as someone that has a thyroid issue, you want to be aware of this, trust me. For me, my quality of life has always been the most important thing, and luckily I've made adjustments that have helped me a lot in that department. Getting on the right medicine dosage helped a lot, but also using the right products, like throwing away things with toxins like nail polish. You would be shocked at the list of ingredients in this book and it's not just parabens and sulfates, it's a lot of stuff. So I started throwing away everything that I owned that had toxic ingredients in it. Now, at the time I was going gung-ho and I was like, let's throw everything out. But I did come to a point of, like, after about a year of living this way, where I started realizing, do I really want to spend $16 on the clean brand eyeliner when it doesn't work as well as the $5 one? So let's just say I've incorporated some things back into my routines. And of course you can do your own research and find what brands tend to be more toxic and have less regulations than others, but definitely take that into consideration. And I'm one of those types of people that believes everything in moderation. So if you find things that work for you or brands that you like that you can't live without, I do believe that there are ways to figure all of this out, but make sure the things that aren't your favorite products are clean or non-toxic. There's also a trend going on where every brand is saying that they're clean and non-toxic. Please actually read the ingredients instead of the labels, because you can be buying products that say that they're clean, but they're really not. Also, the regulation on claiming that your product is clean or non-toxic is not as strict as it should be, and it's also not across the board. It's also different in different countries, so you really want to get familiar with the ingredients themselves rather than just the label of something that appears to be healthy. So after I made those adjustments, and oh, watch out for fragrance too. Like there's a lot of stuff in fragrances. After I got rid of things that I identified as not good for me, such as products, cleaning products, anything like that, I went back to my book, my second book, which is also written by Alissa Vitti. I promise you, this is not sponsored by Alissa Vitti, but I am a fan of her work. In the Flow. This is also about unlocking your hormonal advantage, and she has a lot of information here about your hormones, your body, and also about how to optimize your life along with your cycle, kind of like using it as a calendar and planning certain things around it, which I thought is also really interesting. It's the first time I've read a book like this. So those are my two biggest resources that helped me a lot, other than my endocrinologist, who, and also just gonna say it pays to have a really good relationship with your endo, because whenever I have questions about something new that I want to try, or something that I feel like might be affecting my hormones, I can give her a call, and she'll chat with me briefly and be able to answer questions that I have, or I can leave a message at her front desk of her doctor's office. So yes, then I fired my general practitioner. Like I said earlier, I alluded to in the video, because there was some problems with my blood work. Someone dropped the ball in the office. They didn't call me, and I didn't find out for 3 months. So the second biggest point of this video, other than educating yourself and finding good resources, would be to do the homework of making sure that you like your general practitioner. And if you don't, this is something I waited years to do, because I knew that it was going to be a huge pain in the butt to try to find a new doctor. So I slept on it. I waited, I didn't take care of it, and I just knew it was going to be a huge hassle, especially because I liked this doctor so much initially that I changed my insurance to be with them, you know, to follow them to their practice. So it was a big deal for me to change, but once I did change and I did find a new doctor who I actually really love and trust, life got a lot easier. So these are all things to be aware of. There's a couple of myths that I don't necessarily want to debunk them, but I do want to address them, because there's varying viewpoints on this. And again, I'm going to refer you to your endocrinologist. Please discuss them before you do any of this. So the medium guy writes a lot of books. There's a whole book about like healing your thyroid from this guy called the medical medium, who I don't think he's a trained doctor. I did read the book, and at the beginning I got very excited, because I'm all into like natural healing if I can, you know, natural products, all that stuff. So again, when I can, I'm not a purist in any sense of the word. I like what I like, but be careful with the medical medium, because his whole thing is celery juice. And look, I actually love celery juice and I drink it all the time. It's not bad for you, but it's not necessarily going to heal anything. So make sure that you are on the right dosage of medication, and that you're on a medication that's right for you. The other thing I want to talk about is the medication itself. There are many different kinds, and you might want to try around to see which ones you like. There is a synthetic hormone, like Synthroid, but there's also Armour, which is made of pig. It's made of pig hormones. So the thing is with Armour, my doctor was telling me this, is that because it comes from a natural source, the levels aren't necessarily predictable, but with Synthroid it is. So if your prescription is for 25 micrograms, you're getting 25 because it's synthetic. But with Armour or a natural synthetic, not synthetic, but you know what I mean, a natural hormone source, it's less predictable. It may not be 25 micrograms all the time. So these are just things to be aware of. Also, if you're vegan, like my doctor started me on Armour and vegetarian. She did not tell me that it was made from pigs. I didn't like that. I thought that that was something that she should have disclosed to me. But then again, medicine is medicine. It works differently for different people, and different people have different preferences. So I just want to put that out there. No shame in either one, but find the one that is right for you. The other thing that you might want to consider, besides getting a good doctor and being an advocate for your own health and getting your endo, medical medium, and making sure that you're on the right medication that works the best for your body and the right dosage, because that's also different from everyone. I wish someone had told me that up front. There are some really good resources out there. On Instagram, Dr. Christensen has a really good Instagram. He's in Arizona. His clinic is all just thyroid. This is what he spends his life doing. But again, like, if he's not your personal doctor and hasn't seen your blood work, make sure that you're taking this information with a grain of salt. Like, some of these doctors are out here selling products, right? Like, even Alissa Vitti, who wrote this book, she sells products. So make sure that if this doctor is not your personal doctor and they're not looking at your blood work, take their information with a grain of salt. But that being said, I love Alissa Vitti. I always watch her information and I feel like I've gained a lot from her. And same thing with Dr. Christensen. I do enjoy reading his information. And Jolene Brighten is another good resource on Instagram. I'll put these all in the links below so you guys can follow them, check them out, see if you vibe with their information or if they're right for you. But again, if they're not looking at your blood work, they're not your doctor, take it all with a grain of salt. I also want to address kelp, sea kelp and iodine. So at the beginning of my journey, people were like, oh, my mom would take sea kelp pills and that helped her and she doesn't have to be on medication anymore. Or there's also doctors that say that, you know, there's a whole theory that we get that this was caused from too much iodine or too little iodine, or like it all affects your hormones and your thyroid differently. I have heard so much conflicting information about iodine and about kelp and about seaweed that honestly, I can't even process it, and I can't give you advice based on what I've experienced, but I kind of just stay away from all of it and I use salt in moderation. So I don't use any of that to heal my body, and I don't treat it as an alternative to medicine. I suggest that you don't either, depending on what your doctor says. But just keep in mind that everyone's probably gonna tell you something about salt. Everyone's gonna tell you something about seaweed and iodine and kelp, and then there's gonna be people that tell you don't even have kelp in your skincare. If there's kelp or salt, water in like the hair stuff you're using, throw it out. So there's a lot of differing schools of thought on that. So talk to all of that with your doctor, the person looking at your blood work. Ask for advice, do the research, and just remember, like, everything in moderation, and pay attention first and foremost to how you're feeling. If your energy is not right, if you don't feel like you're working at an optimized level, which is how I felt for years, and just till I got my right medicine dosage, it was the first time I ever felt like, oh, I'm like an actual human now. I'm an actual adult. This is how adults feel. This is the right amount of energy. You'll know when your body feels different. Just pay attention. I do suggest using a journal. You don't have to write long entries if it's not your thing. I know some days I don't feel like journaling at all, but keeping a quick log of how you feel, especially if you change dosages with your medicine, or especially if you change like anything in your diet where maybe you're adding in or subtracting like salt, kelp, whatever. Or even if you read this book and you throw away everything that's toxic or every ingredient that you're worried about, start journaling and make note of how you're feeling like in the next 5 days or in the next 2 weeks. That's all gonna be so crucial and helpful for your healing journey. And that's a little bit about my story. So there we go. I hope this is helpful for those of you who have experienced things similar to me. And I do just wanna say, do not be scared. Your quality of life is going to be just fine. You may have to be on medication for the rest of your life, but the medication makes you feel better. And I've experienced no real side effects. I actually feel much better now that I'm on them, and I'm on them at the right dose. So just remember, this is your life, it's your body. Do your own research and your education, and don't let anyone that's not looking at your blood work give you information or tell you what to do without checking it out with your personal doctor first and foremost. And make sure that doctor that you're checking out with, you love. These things will make your life a lot better if you're on the same journey as I am. Love you guys so much. And to all my thyroid sisters and brothers and non-gender conforming individuals, I hope you found some value in this video, and I hope you can relate somehow to my journey. Sending you guys all love. Bye.